So my intentions for this call are we have a lot of streams going. Just keep everyone updated on where the flow is. Mitch has done a lot of work. Marco's done some work. There's also some Python work. I don't know if Vitor, if you've been following that at all, or Nugget. I haven't been following the Python action as closely as someone who can read Python is. So I'd love to hear some updates on that. And really just go around and then probably like after 20 minutes turn it into a hack session where we're all just working on different pieces and parts. And I'll pass it to Mitch. Intentions, Mitch?
Intentions for this call. Get some idea validation on the disputable conviction voting module, and then go from there. Anything we can cook up that helps get the spec together. And I'd love to hear some feedback from Marco if he's in the call. Other than that, no distractions. I'll pass it to Nugget.
Yeah, intentions mainly sync up, see what can be done. I did a small hack MD for the POAP. I don't know where to post the link, just for people to check and modify it. And distractions, none. I'll pass it to Vitor.
Yeah, intentions are to sync up, see how things are going. I have no update. I was focused more on the comments forum. So more to see how things are going and if I can help in something. And yeah, I have no distractions. Well, best to Lauren.
Hey, my intentions are just to like sync up with everybody to see where we're at and to contribute wherever. Not distracted, and I'll pass it to Zeppi.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, my intention is to see hosting here, and yeah, I would like to contribute on writing for the new on the forum, like write on the new specs. Get informed, learn on that, and I want to be on the runoff again. So let's keep learning, and I'll pass it to Griff.
Nice, that's the spirit. Cool. Well, let's start with the POAP, Nugget. Do you want to give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, there's not much to say actually. I just wrote down kind of the minimum information and wanted to talk to Marco. I thought he was coming today. Maybe he shows up later because he's the one who will make the logo. I understand because he's the design guy. And and mainly it's just have a place to post the link and have it so people know where it is. Should I just copy it into the parameters channel, or is there some better place?
Yeah, that's a great spot. And we'll just, when Marco gets here, we'll just bring up the POAP again.
Okay, great. And I'm a bit unsure what you meant with the Python stuff. Did you mean the thing that YGG was doing, or something else?
Yeah, the bonding curve modeling and conviction voting modeling that Sem did. He kicked out a badass conviction voting model, mostly ripped off of the work OneHive has already done, but still put it all together. And just if there are updates, I don't know. You were working on that with Mohammed, right?
Yes, but I haven't seen any updates till now. I wrote to YGG the other day and I didn't hear back. So, and I didn't bump into him anywhere. So I don't think there are public updates, at least. I don't know if he's been working for himself on something.
Well, maybe I can show that off since we're waiting for. Hey, Marco. Hey, Nate. Actually, maybe we can start. Maybe since both of you guys are here, why don't we start with intentions, distractions? Nate, do you have any intentions or distractions for the call?
Just to get down to the nitty-gritty details of these params, and no distractions at the moment. So I'll pass to Marco.
Thanks, Nate. I'm here to see you, everybody, first, and then learn. I want to learn a lot about the params because that will be valuable for me when doing the design work. So those are my intentions. distractions. I'm sitting in this room locked since the early morning, so can't do that anymore. Need a break. So after this call, I'm gonna take a break. That's all. Pass it over to Lauren. Did you go, Lauren?
No, we already went. We already went. But thanks for thanks for jumping in at the last minute. Actually, David. Hey, David. Welcome to the party. Do you have any intentions, distractions for the call?
Intentions, distractions. Learn about the Tech Schiller's crew, and distractions. I'm out of coffee.
Oh yeah, that's a problem. Okay, cool. Well then, let's go back to POAP, Nuggin. You had some thoughts that you wanted Marco's thoughts on.
Yeah, just we need a small logo for the POAP. We want to make a POAP for everybody who participates in the hatch. And we'll have to send them a list of addresses, and we have to make a small logo, like 500 for 500 pixels and less than 200 kilobytes. Just a cute image for the POAP. I think you did the last one. Did I understand that right?
Well, I did a bunch of stuff, but I can't recall anymore. 500 times 400 or 500.
500, 500.
500.
500.
So that, okay. Should we write something on that, like, the hatch or contributor or hatcher or maybe something like that?
OG hatcher, I don't know, something. I did a small HackMD. It's on the params channel with the infos, but it's not that much.
Got it.
Okay, great.
Consider it done.
Nice.
Cool. Well, that was easy. Well, then I want to pass it to Mitch to go over the awesome specs that he wrote. He's got a couple of HackMDs, and I think you can just take it away, Mitch. And then after that, we'll go into the forum post. If there's time, we can just talk.
Do you want to go over stuff that we looked at last night or disputable conviction?
The stuff we went over last night. I assume that will be very interesting for Marco. I don't know, and it might be a good opportunity to get some feedback on those specs because they look almost final.
Okay. Yeah. So in the parameters channel, you should have links for both of them. I put them up last night. And I can also share my screen. Let's find it here. Too many buttons. Okay. Let's go to... So that's the first one there for price floor and token thaw. I don't know if Marco's seen this. You've probably seen it already, Marco.
Are you sharing the screen or?
But you can go in the document. The documents are all there in params, but I'm also sharing it on my screen.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So we just fixed it up a little bit yesterday, Griff and I. So we've got a clear explanation of what price floor is, token thaw, token freeze, kind of just explaining the analogy. And then how we want to frame our questions. So there's two questions there. There's one that's relating to price floor by getting the token freeze. How long should the TEC token price floor be held at its opening price? And then for token thaw, how long should it take for 100% of the hatcher's TEC to be released?
And user is entering for the second question. User is entering value in days.
Well, that's the question. Should we want to do it in days or weeks? I think weeks would make the most sense.
And also, like how complicated, and I'm really glad Vitor's here, like how complicated can we go on some of these things, you know, like could we have a graph with a couple of lines and they just move the lines, and then there's like an input value that they could also just type into, and either one would change the result? Like is this sort of interaction available to us at a relatively quick speed, or is that like, whoa, don't do that, you know?
Well, isn't this chart that you're showing me in the price
Yeah,
one?
like imagine
What
there were two lines on this chart, or like that long vertical line. If you could just move that vertical line, and that's how you put in the input, you know, it'd be fun and interactive. But I don't know how much work that is.
Yeah, like for using Dash, it's a little bit tricky. Like it's doable, but yeah, I'm not sure. Like it's doable. You can click. Like I think the easiest way would be like you just click where you want and it goes there. But a slider within the chart may be a little bit complicated. Like it's doable, but it may be like weird for showing it because it's basically gonna be a plotly graph.
Maybe. So maybe when the user enters the input, like the days, weeks, or whatever, it automatically reflects to the chart. So like it just, you know, the effects of those values changes will be immediately be seen. So
that's easy to do.
Yeah, that would be the easiest solution, I think.
Cool.
But like I think these kind of I think like I'm not sure like how complicated it is because I don't have the informations right now. But I think we can iterate on that. But yeah, I think we can try to like if design wise it's a better way to do. We can do this way, like for the UX.
Yeah, it would be pretty intuitive just to be able to have two lines that you can move, and then that would change the inputs.
Yeah, we can keep it that way. I can make it.
So yeah, token freeze, token thaw, liquid tokens. It's pretty fun, and I think pretty intuitive. The freeze is like the cliff period, and then the thaw is the release, and then everything is liquid after that. If you guys you see the HackMD, if you want to make any comments, of course, go wild. But maybe the bonding curve might. I feel like this is complete, Mitch.
Yeah.
But the bonding curve is a little more complicated. So.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments on this before we go to the bonding curve?
Just a sec. Without reading the introduction, when you ask me for how long should a TC token price floor be held at its opening price, I don't know what you're asking me. You know, like, you know, just coming out of the blue, I have no idea what you're asking me. Is there a way you can ask me the same question, but like?
Well, you should read the introduction, no?
I know. Yeah. But without reading the introduction, is there any way these questions could be like framed differently?
Which part is confusing?
Or like when you say that, you say like you're basically asking how long all the tokens should be vested, right? Because to the opening price floor, you need all the tokens to be vested.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could ask like how long should all the tokens be vested?
Because I want to bring it back to price floor. So like how long should the TEC token's minimum price be held at its opening price?
Maybe just put it together. Like, how long should the tokens be frozen to keep the price at the opening price?
How long should the TEC tokens be frozen
to keep the price floor at the opening price or something?
Okay. But then, like, how how long should the TC tokens keep the same how long should the TC tokens keep the same price floor before dropping or something like that?
Yeah, I mean it's
that I get immediately.
how long.
It'd be kind of nice if we asked the user what they want the opening price to be first, and then say, how long do you want it to stay that way?
Well, yeah, but this is going to be, so then, because that's the thing, is that's why I wanted the ABC to be first, because then they decide the opening price.
What if we just pull the opening price out of the ABC and like have that be the first question? It could be part of the price floor token thaw section, and then we have the bonding curve designed around that.
Is there a reason why we're doing it as a time-based parameter rather than say X amount of tokens have been purchased at this price and now it's lifted type of thing, or is
it's the configuration space that's allowed to us with the smart contracts? Like it's the vesting contracts are time based.
Gotcha.
It would be some major engineering work to change that. But I will say in the original common stack design, the idea was that the tokens would be locked until a certain amount of money was spent from the conviction voting pool. That was the original concept.
So then I just pulled this out of the augmented bonding curve spec and threw it in.
Yeah, because I mean the opening price is pretty basic, right? And it's kind of fun to start with too. It's like, hey, what price should we make this token? You know, it's like, okay, yeah, cool. I get to decide that.
I just feel like people should just read.
Oh man,
she read the whole damn thing. I spent so much care into it, making it, digestible. Okay, so then if we add in here and we explain opening price and we say at what price, blah, 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 can we simplify the second question? I feel like this question's too long. The second one.
Right now you're saying the same thing twice. Like the floor be held, I think it can be cut. How long should the tokens be frozen to keep up the price floor?
Just say maintain the price floor.
That's what
How long should the tokens be frozen to maintain the price floor?
Yeah, like how long should the TC tokens?
But the thing is we want to connect that we're holding the price floor at the opening price.
To maintain the opening price floor. That makes sense.
How long should the TEC tokens maintain?
Have a price floor of this number. I feel like it'd be really nice if we just said, oh, you just picked that number? Okay. How long do we hold the price floor at that number?
Well, we say at opening price. That's literally what it is.
Well, like at and then like opening price is
just like a number.
Auto fills based on what they put in the other input.
2 wrapped X die.
I think we should mention that they are frozen in some way or that they are locked. Right now, I think it's not that clear that like how are the tokens maintaining the price floor? They maintain it through being frozen.
I mean, if you read the damn introduction, like I just don't know how to convey this. Like they have to read it to understand. Like I don't think that it should just be monkey basic.
That's too long, Mitch. I'm just kidding.
Man.
How long should the Hatcher's tokens be frozen to maintain a price floor at
opening price?
At 2x.
You can say like to maintain the opening price floor.
Yeah.
Like how long should the TC tokens be held to maintain the opening price floor?
Why don't we just say be frozen?
I like that.
Be frozen at the opening price.
That's not exactly what they are.
No.
But yeah.
No,
To maintain the opening price.
The opening price floor, like, yeah, like how long should the TC tokens be frozen to maintain the opening price floor?
Yeah.
Then we've got a new term in here. We've got opening price floor.
Yeah, but it's the initial price floor. You can say like initial price floor. Like it's just one variable.
I would just say to maintain a price floor at whatever the input was that they put. Like, I think it'd be fun for them to be like, oh yeah, I just put in this number. And then the question is, hey, you just set the opening price. How long do we want to hold that price for?
Or you can say like maintain the price floor at the launch of the commons, then because then you're using the same phrase as before.
Well, this is like, because this one here, it's like, okay, we want to get opening price from them. And then we take that input and then we plug it in at the bottom of the second question.
I think it makes sense like that.
I think this is okay. I think we've gotten there, but
Thanks for letting us all yell at you, Mitch.
Right? How many token engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
To write a sentence. Too many.
Louise.
Too many. Well, can we go to the ABC? Because there's a lot going on there.
Okay. We're going to leave this and we're going to move on. So immediately, I don't know if you have it on your screen or you're looking on mine, but immediately we know we can get rid of the parts here that talk about the opening price.
So we're calling it the common pool and not the funding pool.
I don't know, Griff. Why are we calling it the common pool?
I lost a battle, man. I lost a battle. What can I say? I tried. The garden swarm is going with common pool for all their gardens. The Giveth Gardens, Bright ID Gardens, One Hive. They're all calling it the common pool. I tried for a couple weeks to keep the funding pool name, but can't win them all. So I feel like we should just all have the same name for the pool that's holding the funds for conviction voting, rather than fight it. So yeah, common pool now. I'm sorry.
Noted.
Thank you, Nate. This battle was only lost on the weekend. I still haven't had a chance to really propagate that.
Sorry for your loss, I guess.
Right. So then there's only really 3 questions left in this module. And that's the commons tribute, entry tribute, exit tribute. And then at the bottom, there is this little tool for like plotting your augmented bonding curve that Nugget and I dreamed up, and then Griff and I refined a little bit last night.
Yeah, so the story is that there's these 3 steps. So there's 4 points and 3 steps, and each step is like the price changes from here to here because someone just put this much into the bonding curve. And so there's like, that's like the core piece of information, how much wrapped XI was either put into the bonding curve or pulled out, or really interacting with the bonding curve, put into the system or out of the system. And then there's a lot of other details in a larger chart below that kind of uses the steps. So slippage, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Mitch.
My vision for this would be is that like Griff was saying, there would be an initial step, so like maybe an initial buy that would always happen, and then users could start adding more interactions from there. So they would, set the reserve balance, or I think they were going to set the price, and then the amount that they're buying or selling, and then they set the point, and then it plots it on the curve. And then they can keep on adding points, or they could remove a point or set another point. And then it starts to populate a table at the below that has all the details for every step or for every transaction, I guess you could say, that happens on their curve.
How many points can a user add?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, do we want to limit it, or do we want to let them be able to play around with it? And to what point? Because the thing is they're setting up their augmented bonding curve, and then they're basically simulating what would happen to their economy when people buy and when people sell.
Maybe for the dashboards, we can allow for, I don't know, maybe not unlimited, but as much as they want, basically. But then when you export it to the GitHub, we should cap it at, I don't know, maybe 10 steps or something.
Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing that Griff and I were talking about, is like when we export it to the GitHub, which is going to be later on, we'll have like a summary page that combines all of these together and just has like really concrete information. We would just have like a fixed set of steps instead of the custom ones that the user sets. So that it'll always be the same story in a summary page, and then people can more easily compare one Commons design proposal to another.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So this would be the tool just to kind of like, they can play with it on their own and like maybe discover things, but then at the end we have the summary, and it'll always be the same story using the inputs that they chose.
I'm really curious to hear Marco's thoughts on this, but the more I sit on this, the more I feel strongly about like limiting what the user can do in this module. It just feels like I want them to be able to play, but at the same time, I don't want them to get too confused and start making wrong conclusions. And I'm really curious about like how much we should let them play, right? Like, do we?
For how long?
Yeah, like
for how?
Like, so like there's a few variables, right? There's like how much is in the reserve. So maybe like at a really small reserve, 50K in the reserve, 500K in the reserve, 5 million in the reserve, and like having these set steps. Do we let them put any number, or do we give them set, like this number, this number, this number, this number, and then also with the steps, do we let them put in any steps, or do we say this first step, this second step, this third step, this fourth step, and it's always the same, and you just get to like see what it looks like in those positions. Like I see both sides. I like the interaction. It's like kind of fun. You get to play, you get to discover, you feel engaged. But then I also want to make sure that they can, the expected use case here is, oh, I just forked someone else's proposal. I just saw someone else's like results on GitHub or wherever, and had these parameters, like these outputs already lined up. How do my changes compare to those changes? Yeah, Marco, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, because one thing that worries me, like users might spend a lot of time here doing that stuff, adding endless number of points. That's number one. But I just have one question. So the entry and exit tribute is something they define first, and then the reserve balance is also they also define that. I mean, at that input, or is that already defined?
The reserve balance would just be like examples that we would throw. So the reserve balance at 500K or 1 million, or we could take it from the hatch funds raised.
The reserve balance is the opening reserve balance is determined by the Commons tribute. So they're determining that up above. But then to understand the bonding curve, like what if a bunch of hatchers sell and we're below that reserve balance? What if a bunch of hatchers buy and we're above that reserve balance? And then of course there's the opening reserve balance that they determined that should be like, maybe one of the options that they see. Maybe it's the default option that they see, right?
So
what you're
go ahead, Marco.
No, so what you're Griff saying is like after entering the entry and exit tribute, we just want to show them like 4 defaults and say like this is what's gonna happen, like if this happens here or if these values have been entered, and don't let them actually put anything there and define those points, but just give them examples.
I really want to lean on your expertise on this. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. So there's one thing I would definitely, I think like users will learn by doing and have a better experience of like, entering some numbers and seeing what happens. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be like, giving them a lot of options, like endlessly putting those numbers and having them stay on this screen for a long time. So we might just like give 3 defaults and let them add the 4th one. Or the first one, and then the 3 are defined by us, and say like, okay, this is what happens at these stages. Hey, want to try it out? Like, add your own, like just one, right?
Like add, yeah. So then we do the first 3 steps, and then they can add like a 4th one.
Yeah, and also with this model, we're like we're kind of letting them zoom into a part of the bonding curve by changing the reserve, right? So it'd be interesting to give them like all of the dots or something, like give them the overview somehow, like here's the whole curve, and then zoom in on like so that they understand, oh yeah, here's what happens when we're in this area of the curve, Oh, here's what happens when we're in this area. I mean, it doesn't have to be this animation zoom in, but somehow getting them to understand that there's like the map, and then of like, Google Maps, like there's the map of the state of the curve, and then let's go into this city, or let's go into this little piece. And that they understand that they just designed a whole curve and that they're just looking at one little part of it. How do we get them to experience the bonding curve?
Aren't those 4 points now on the screen what you're talking about? Like these 4 points zoomed out? Is that what you're talking about? Or is this like, and then you want them like when they click on one of the points to like zoom in there? Or the other way around?
That could work. I mean, I would say that this isn't the best visualization for this, is what I'd say, because like this first off, the chart isn't even the right chart. The y-axis should be price, and the bottom axis should be collateral, and instead the y-axis is supply. So like I would, this is not a bad like, oh yeah, here's something, but it's definitely not perfect. Like I would expect that in a lot of these zoom ins, you won't see 0, 0. And you won't see this sharp thing. You'll just see a line. It'll probably just look like a line, And maybe the line will be like this at one spot and like this at another spot. It'll be tilted a little bit differently based on where you are on the curve. But like, and that's why I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be cool if we could see this. And yeah, maybe you click the dot and then you see these 4 dots. And maybe you could place another dot somewhere else that you want to like zoom in on. Or maybe it's not a dot. Maybe it's like a line, that's kind of like a band. of an area that you zoom in on and see the steps. But yeah, it's complicated, man. Finding curves suck. Especially when people think, oh, this is what the price is going to do. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. There's no time in here, you know, like this is a challenging task.
Would it be beneficial to show the growth of the funding or common pool at the different steps?
Mm-hmm. So that data is in the larger chart.
Yeah. And there's a pie chart that Nuggin put into the MVP spec that I think we would use at the summary page. Or we could put it in here and like show how much each step contributed, but we also have it here in the table.
Yeah, maybe about that pie chart. I think maybe for the final dashboard, it would be good to kind of show what the common pool was before, and add, and then show what every step added. In the pie chart I had right now, it's just from all that the 4 steps added, this much was from each interaction.
Mm-hmm.
For the final visualization, maybe show also how much was there to start with.
I think that might be out of the scope of this particular module, but I think we should show that at the summary.
Okay.
And will this be able to illustrate like what the price would look like in terms of like selling and versus buying, just simply buying in these steps?
Yeah, I think at every step there should be a buy experience and a sell experience. Basically, the story is someone buys a little bit, someone else buys or sells a lot, and then that person gives back the tokens that they received. Like, that's kind of the story, the experience. Like, okay, what happens if I buy a little, then some whale comes in and buys a bunch, and then I sell all the tokens I got? How much money was generated for the commons? How much money went back to me?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, cool. Wow, that's an interesting experience. Now, what happens if I buy a bunch and things don't go great for the commons? There's a big sell, and then I need my money back. So then I sell my tokens that I received. How much money do I get back? How much money was generated for their commons? And I feel like that's the experience that at least I would like people to see, is like, oh yeah, so as a speculator, I can make money, I can lose money. And no matter what, the commons benefits, which is just like,
Tend to make the same scenario for like everyone, like you just do an illustrative scenario of this happening and then you show.
Yeah, like maybe the thing that changes is the buy amount or sell amount. Like maybe there's a buy amount of 1,000, a buy amount of 10,000, a buy amount of 100,000.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
yeah, but I mean, like not necessarily. Like I get that in this spec it's nice to have like original price, buy amount, like these steps, but maybe more narrative-wise, like you just say, oh, like you kind of say what you said, but like explaining in a real scenario instead of just putting these steps. Sure, it makes sense.
I mean, we had that before. That was in the MVP spec, was just like a text scenario of everything filling out, but then it just like it looked a bit overwhelming.
Makes sense. Oh yeah, makes sense. Maybe it's too much, right? Too much text.
I mean, if they can't be bothered to read the introduction, you know,
yeah,
how are they going to read that?
You're right.
So then, go ahead.
We'll see what Marco can pull out here. I mean, this is not an easy task. But
I like the idea of having the first 3 steps decided as a default, and then maybe letting them add one more step, you know? And maybe you have 2 versions. You have, you know, one version with the buy and one version with the sell, you know? Like what you had there, Griff.
Yeah. Well, okay, so there's to like time box maybe like
Okay.
2 or 3 more minutes on this thing. Does anyone have any last comments? Yeah, Marco.
Just one question. Can you provide a link to the chart that is actually going to be used so that I can see how that looks like? I mean, or at least provide an example of like with the values and everything that goes in there.
You mean like the price versus supply graph, or price versus collateral?
For the bonding curve, yeah.
Let me see. I think I can pull one out. Cool. Any other last comments on the bonding curve spec and thoughts on this? Okay, cool. Then let's keep going. I want to give some updates also from the Common Swarm. So maybe let me just listen. And then I will pass it to after I give a quick overview. I want to pass it to Nate too, to give us some updates on the forum posts that we're working on. So in the Commons dashboard, in the Commons upgrade, there's a lot going on. You know, there's just a lot of variables there, and a lot of parameters that people can change. And we just can't. I mean, you saw we just analyzed 6. We just analyzed 6 parameters that we can choose. Okay, there's like well over 30. So we just cannot build a product that will be fun to use and actually really do a good job of going into depth about all of these issues. So we're gonna lean on the power of defaults. We don't want to take away people's ability to configure every minutia, every little instance, piece that they can. But we don't necessarily need to spend all the time describing all of them, that some of them are really boring or not really that interesting and don't have that much impact, or also very complicated and confusing relative to the impact that they have. So I'm working on a forum post to kind of explain to the community which parameters we want to really like let them dig into, and which parameters we can we're just going to kind of hide in an advanced drop down and not give them a lot of explanation other than maybe some forum posts. And just if people want to change it, they can, but kind of say, leave these alone and actually have working groups decide these parameters. So some of these parameters are like transferability. Should the token be transferable? Like, hey, if they want the token to be not transferable, cool. They can change that, but maybe the stewards can just decide that. The token name, the token decimals, virtual supply, virtual balance, very complicated shit. Disputable conviction voting, like there's these proposals amounts and challenge durations. Min effective supply, which is like really a minor thing that matters at initialization, but doesn't really matter after the project gets going. And then when disputable voting, there's a lot of complications to what we wanted to do because the Common Swarm is now going a different direction than we originally planned. Originally, we were going to make our own template, but now we are going to inherit the Gardens template, which makes some customization not really worth it, specifically around disputable voting instances. So it sounds like it wouldn't make sense to have 2 disputable voting instances, or if we do, it will be a lot of work to configure that all out to work properly. So we're within the week we'll decide around 3 strategies. Either we just say, listen, there's only 1 disputable voting instance, and you know that would simplify all of this permission stuff that we're working on. We just wouldn't even do that in the Commons dashboard. or we will we'll follow the plan and have 2 disputable voting instances because we'll find some ways to make it easy. Or we'll make a disputable voting instance and a regular voting instance that would have slightly different parameters than the disputable voting instance. And so like there would be a voting instance that would just be what's the word? Like it wouldn't be disputable by the Celeste. It would just be like there wouldn't be delegation, there wouldn't be wait for quiet, there wouldn't be any of the cool features. It would just be a normal Aragon voting instance. So we're gonna work on those for the next 2 weeks. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on what they prefer. I can help fight for one direction or another. Especially around like, do we want to have 2 voting instances or just one? And if we just have one, later on we can upgrade the DAO after it's launched to add a disputable voting instance and change permissions and upgrade it later. But at launch, just having one might make it easier for the config dashboard. Or at the same time, though, it's really nice to educate our community about permissions and like how the DAO works at like this basic level of like, oh yes, there is how the commons works at this basic level. There is a voting instance that can change who has permissions to like, and can change each of these variables, and having that frame of mind is very educational. I'd be curious to hear, Marco, what you think about these 3 options, and if there's one that you prefer.
I'm gonna piss you off right now. I was doing the POAP. Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. So the 3 options are how we had it. Where I don't know. Did you see the disputable voting stuff? Like how he had like a Trello board. Mitch kind of had like a Trello board thing. And so there's 2 disputable voting instances, but that seems technically very difficult to achieve for various reasons. And so that might still be one option where we have 2 same disputable voting instances and then people move permissions between them. Another option is we just say, hey, guess what, Commons, you have 1 disputable voting instance and it controls all the parameters. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it.
I read the comment from. Yeah, sorry. I read the comment from Sam in this document, and he said like he would like to pass on the first parameters to the second one or something like that, or he would just keep 1 instead of having those 2. And to me, while I was reading those comments, that was like, okay, that makes more sense. For whatever reason, I was just like looking from the user perspective, I guess, or my own. So I was leaning more towards that solution or suggestion or proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And does anyone have any strong opinions towards like keeping this permissions experience versus just having 1 disputable voting?
I mean, it kind of takes the teeth out of the whole permissions concept, because then it feels like the commons is really hard to change. It's not as adaptable. If all the parameters are going to be 1 setting, and I'm assuming it's going to be really hard to change, then we're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It'd be like changing the bonding curves reserve ratio would have the same like activation energy as changing the exit tribute. Which obviously changing the reserve ratio, changing the shape of the bonding curve while you're just like in mid economy might be like something you don't really want to do. Whereas changing the exit tribute or the entry tribute might be something that, you decide because you're running out of money here, it might be a good idea just to pump it up 1%.
Yeah, that seems pretty significantly different parameters that to be voted on. And so what's the hesitation with another instance? The garden swarm doesn't.
There's because the garden swarm. I mean, we're gonna research it. We're gonna try. There's a gardens meeting today that we're gonna try to push Sadly, it's during the comms call. Sorry, Chewy. But we're going to, see what their thoughts are about multiple disputable voting instances and how difficult that would be. But there's some, it would just be a lot of dev work. And, if they don't want to do it, then it's a lot better to just stay with their framework. And disputable voting doesn't have its own. It would be a lot of extra work to build a whole front end and system for a second disputable voting app. Disputable voting doesn't have its own default UI or anything. But so the other option is we have a second voting app. It's just not disputable. And in some ways that's okay because there's kind of some value in having a non-disputable voting app for governing Celeste. Because there's this weird edge case scenario where if Celeste goes rogue, Skynet takes over Celeste, we could never remove it because they could buy tokens in TEC and dispute any time that someone tries to vote to remove Celeste. So there's a little bit of this really unlikely edge case, but where there would be value in having one voting app that's not disputable, that at least governs the permissions over if Celeste is, able to be changed. Who is our dispute resolution organization? So that's one permission and so we could have a second voting app that's not disputable, and that has its own UI, and that would be really easy. And then that could be the hard one to pass. And so the reserve ratio and these other things, that's there would be a high quorum, 15% quorum or something required to pass a proposal in this voting app, but it wouldn't be disputable. So it'd be closer to Dandelion. Different parameters, but closer. Anyway, so that's the action there. We only have 5 more minutes. The one other thing I want to mention on this is because we're inheriting gardens, there's a lot of random gardens specific parameters that we're not really going to use, but we're going to set. And I don't even know what they are, but I'm going to try to discover that this week as well. And so there's all these parameters that we are not going to really explain so much, but we are going to give the power in the dashboard, hopefully, in some sort of advanced tab at the end. And then in here, in this post, I just kind of explain who we're going to delegate the default answers to, and some of them are the params team, some of them are the stewards, some of them are the common swarm. So yeah, that's the story there. But with our last 5 minutes, I definitely want to pass it to Nate to hear any updates on forum posts and if there's any support that you need, Nate.
Yeah, so I will post the parameters document. I've got a little Google Doc of the outline of forum posts that we need. And so, and it's if anybody wants to help work on some of these, they can. I have a format that I use with the hatch proposals, the hatch parameters before that goes through the introduction and purpose, in design, defining it, what are the related parameters and the suggested range for the actual input for the parameter. And the most important one, I guess, is the implications, where you kind of explore, what does it mean to set this parameter high or low or to the extremes? And what type of outcomes can we expect, whether they be social or, technical outcomes that result from it. So it just kind of gives the user a really in-depth understanding of what the parameters mean in the greater context. So, but feel free to add to it. I'll be just kind of hacking away at it as I go, so feel free to just hop in there, add the link, and we can review it all together.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone here want to actually support Nate in writing some of these forum posts? Yeah. I know I do.
I like to help too.
Yeah, I definitely want to.
Nice. Well, thanks for setting this up, Nate. That's super cool. And thank you all for coming. Let's see. I want to end a little bit early. Clearly, this is a better time. Look at all these cool people who came in. Thank you guys for coming and joining the params call. We'll be doing this every week at this time, and hopefully we'll have some progress for you, and it can be more interactive. We normally don't have so many guests join us, so I'll try to make it cooler for people popping in.